intercepted by Goolsby. Touchdown, Notre Dame.
Goolsby has been all over.
So it's been a lot of fun to do things a little bit differently.
The Mike Goolsby Show with Mike Goolsby and Tim Hyde. Live.
Welcome in, welcome back, fellow college football fanatics. We are with you even during Notre Dame's bye week. That doesn't mean there wasn't a lot going on in the world of college football, though. Woo, baby. Busy weekend around the landscape, around the country. We got to get back to focusing on Notre Dame football and what we have in front of us. Welcome in, everybody, on a Sunday night. It is your captain, Mike Goolsby, and Coach Tim Hyde. Welcome in, boys. How you doing on a Sunday night?
Can't complain, John. Can't complain. And just we were talking about it backstage before we went live. If you haven't seen Johnny's video that he put out last night, talking Brian Kelly, etc., great work. And this is why I tried to link up with you for over a year. I kept sending these DMs and Twitter. Phenomenal work, John. Phenomenal work. But no, great to be with you. Tim, what's up, buddy?
Well, Notre Dame's winning, and living in New England, the Patriots are winning. So life is good right now because it has been bad as an NFL fan the last few years. So the Pats are back, I guess. So that feels good out here. Everyone's happy. When you go to the grocery stores, people are wearing their Pats pride. So that's nice. Outside of that, man, I consumed college football. I've watched more Vanderbilt football the last 2 weeks than my entire life combined. So that has been an absolute blast. And I never rooted for Mississippi State so hard in my life, and they absolutely choked. So outside of that, yesterday was fun as could be.
Yeah, it was really, man, it's just a weight off your back when there's no Notre Dame to worry about, and you could just sit and consume, and you don't have all that extra anxiety for your game. It really is freeing. And I know Notre Dame people really enjoyed a lot of last night's football. So,
well, let me jump in real quick off of that, John, before we dive in. The problem is with no Notre Dame, at least for my brain, is I start looking at all these damn teams that are winning, and it's like, well, some of you lose. It's like Georgia Tech won't go away. This team won't go. Some of these guys just go away, and they refuse to go away. So you start looking at playoff brackets, and you're like, oh, my God, like Virginia. Are you kidding me? It's like just lose and get the hell out of here. And so just watching that, thinking of scenarios, all these conferences that may have multiple bids. Brigham Young just keeps surviving. So that's the nerve-wracking part. But obviously, as I always say, everything plays itself out over time.
Yeah, you got you had all the Kelly entertainment, but as far as those wins and losses we were looking for, not really a week with a lot of movement there that would help Notre Dame. If we have time on the back half of the show, I may have a question for you guys. And we'll get into that. So you guys, this is going to be fun. This is something you guys like to do, your preseason kind of looking at Notre Dame position groups, giving an idea where you think they're at. Now that we're pretty much at the halfway point, we're going to revisit this and we're going to see what you guys think of where these position groups are. I think this is like an extension of some of the deep dive stuff we do on the Patreon channel. Link in the description for everybody. Join us for the full boat. So this will be a good little touch point here. Now, here's what I have in mind. I'm going to bring up a position group, rotate which one of you goes first, give a little synopsis of how you arrived at your grading. And if we have any disagreement or anything juicy, I'll press on that a little bit to kind of hash it out. If not, we'll keep it moving to the next one. I have a question for you guys both before we get into that, though. I was thinking about how to put this together. I know the way you guys both think about Notre Dame football and analyze it. Did you struggle separating the first two games from all the rest when you put together a grading for where we're at now? Because when I was playing it in my head, I'm going, damn, you almost had two separate seasons, weeks 1 and 2 and everything else. I want to know, how did you navigate that in your minds coming up with this?
Yeah, I'll start it off. And the idea was to do it maybe prior to the USC game, let's do these midseason grades. And Tim very astutely was like, nah, let's wait till after USC, kind of fill in the bye week. Great idea.
Yeah.
So Tim, for me, when I'm looking at these positional groups, absolutely, John, you take the first 2 games into account. I'm taking the depth chart into account. I'm taking some of the players that we pulled, some of the players that we plugged in, and kind of like it's kind of a blend of the first part of the season married up with where we're at today. That's where I kind of took this into account. So even factoring in that USC game, fellas, some players went down a tick and some player groups went up a tick. So it should be fun. It should be fun. I think we enjoy doing this.
Definitely.
I want to see if you guys differ. That's one of the things I'm looking for. I'm wondering if you guys are going to be pretty close, or if there's anything where you really do see it differently, and then we can hammer that. So let's get into this, and we're going to just start with the offense first. I'm starting with a group that you guys both love to talk about, love to analyze, love to break down. You both have strong opinions on it. It is the Notre Dame offensive line. Mike, we're going to go.
God, I thought you were. Oh boy.
We're going to you first on this. I picked this for a reason because you guys both love O-line play and debating it, and I wanted to hit it first. Notre Dame offensive line.
Oh, man, I thought for sure, Tim, he was going wide receiver.
Oh, yes.
Nope.
It just to be clear, we haven't talked at all about any of this prior to, so this is live reaction.
Tim, I would have been mad if you did. I would have been mad.
Dude. Your O-line group, like what I just said, last sentence out of my mouth, taking the first 2 games into account with where we're at depth-wise, et cetera, C. Pains me to say it, but we're playing how many backups at this point? I'll leave some meat on the bone, Tim, conversationally, but I'm saying C. And that's coming off of a huge rushing game against USC, but maybe that had more to do with USC's defensive scheme more so than it did, with light boxes, et cetera, than it did our O-line play. Tim, I'm at a C. What to say, Coach Timmy Hyde?
Well, number one, it had everything to do with the O-line slamming USC. I felt watching that thing. They just hammered the hell out of
Here we go.
Oh, it's a B. It's a B. It was a D minus after Miami. And I mean, the O-line is probably one of the most improved units on the team. They have been absolutely outstanding moving forward. So, yeah, I'm like Jay Carr. I was a B minus, but I bumped them up to a B just because they're basically in the same situation as last year now with injuries, backups having to play. So obviously the USC game's fresh, but they have really, really improved over the course, I feel, of this season. So, I mean, we're going to obviously, you got a new starter coming in with Sullivan Absher is going to be, having his first start. The biggest disappointment would be Emil Wagner when you look at his overall play, because he had, because I've talked about this, in the old pod for, the entire season and the off season was Emil Wagner had a better season as a true junior than Liam Eichenberg and Blake Fisher. When you look at his overall play and statistics and things, going into that. So he's taken a step back, but Billy Schrauff, obviously he got injured. He was on his way to an All-American season, which stinks. Joe Otting is in year 3. Absher's in year 3. So at least you got some older guys. So we'll see how these guys blend with BC, Navy, Pitt, coming up here. But I went with B just because of tremendous improvement since game 1. But hell, how can you not improve after game 1, right?
Yeah, and I would say the improvement lended itself more to Soda Pass Pro than the run game. But again, I'm looking at this. Don't take me to task too hard, but Otting's got 1 start.
Sure.
Going on 2. And Absher, this will be his first start. So it's like, I don't know how you can look at that group. And it's different in terms of last year with Rocco and Coogan because they had experience, even though they were technically backups until they weren't. So that's kind of where I'm at. it's less than ideal. And you could make the argument of, hell, I mean, you're playing 3 backups because Jagasaw has to see the field, right? So,
exactly.
It's just the C grade, call it C for challenge, John, kind of issuing a challenge to that group. And I've been super impressed with the pass protection from them, and that'll factor into my quarterback grade as well. But yeah, it's more just based off of depth, because if one of these guys goes down, you have another injury. What are you going to do?
Well, yeah. I mean, now you're playing number 9, and nobody's going to be good when you're playing number 9, 10, 11 on a roster. So, but I gave it a B also for Gerby Lambert. Sure. He's more than likely going to be, a freshman All-American because they take into account redshirt Frosh. So I really think he's been outstanding, especially when I sit there and you just hone in on him and just his skills. But I also, Coogan and Rocco were third-year guys. They had never seen the field until year 3 in 2023. Same with, obviously, Craig was full-time starter last year. But that's why I'm like Otting, Absher, their time is now in year 3. Wagner never played until year 3 last year. So I think some of these guys are more than ready to come in and kick some butt. But I think the improvement, Lambert and Schrauf being an All-American, but Schrauf's not going to be there the second half of the season, which stinks. But I just went with B. I guess I was too happy after watching USC film.
No, I appreciate it. That's a little bit of discourse is good. And the only other thing, Tim, and you and I've always kind of felt that way with both units, offensive, defensive line, especially kind of sitting on the couch, getting the chance to watch several games yesterday. The lack of size will still bug me. I see some of the offensive lines that these, name brand programs roll out. We don't look like them. And that's kind of just a personal thing for me.
But 30 seconds on this, a real Tim Hyde 30 seconds, I promise. Some of these big units are sloppy.
Sure.
That's what I see. I see sloppy guys. That's what I see. Some large dudes out there running around blocking, but some sloppy guys. So that was just something, and I know exactly what you're talking about, but I kind of noticed that. I think the Notre Dame, the group of 5, they've been working really well together. So losing Billy's is the kick in the butt, so to speak. But
yeah, it's your best offensive lineman, and yeah, it's just.
But Absher's
I totally get the sloppy thing, but when you've got, it's hard to move people in my estimation that are when you're 295 pounds outside at your tackles. But yeah, that's where we're at. So look at it as a challenge to the group.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's fair. The Miami game, it was early, a lot of improvement, but it still weighs down the overall grade just because
100%, John.
Like it has to 100%. Because it was a long time ago, but it still mattered. It was very important. And you didn't rise to the moment. I know their defense is good, but that's going to weigh down the average grade. It just is.
But I also will say the Miami game when you only give the ball to Price and Love 16 combined times, it's hard to let the O-line do its work. That was beyond inexcusable when you look at this season. Your 2 best football players touched it 16 out of 70 plays.
Yeah,
that is nuts when you look back at that game.
That's fair. Speaking of the backs, let's move on to the running back group.
Oh,
Tim, you're up first this one.
I'll go first. A+. How hard is that? Let me just throw out some numbers because these are actually insane when you look at this, because obviously there's 2 running backs, correct? So they're splitting carries. So even though they're splitting carries, Jay Love is 10th in the country in rushing yards, 10th. And you think of all these backs that are just getting the ball nonstop. He's 10th. That is insane. Jadarian Price is 9th in the country in all-purpose. I love that stat. That is an awesome stat to see him up there for that thing. Love is 5th in all-purpose. So you got 2 running backs in the national rankings of all-purpose yards. So I thought that was great. And Price is 13th in the country in yards per carry. So outside of that, we could talk about depth. We have no clue because none of those guys are playing. But the top 2 are, it's a shame you just can't do the Doak Walker Award to 2 backs, like a combo award, because by far, and this is another reason why the Notre Dame O-line with a B. Someone's blocking for these guys. And combined, nobody has the season that these two guys are combined. If you combined them, they're the Heisman Trophy winner with their numbers this year.
No, there's no question. I like the way you put that too. I went with an A+, obviously. I considered an A just because Jadarian, had a couple fumbles, right? And that matters to me. And we lost both of those, if my memory serves me correct. But I'll go A+ as well. And just to drive that point home, continue to try to drive that point home, and that what we're seeing from the two of these guys, whether Jadarian comes back, whether he goes to the NFL, it's really unique, and it's like generational, and it's going to be a long time till you see either, a kid like either one of them, much less two of them.
Yeah, I mean, this is like 1992 with Reggie Brooks, who was 5th in the Heisman, and Jerome Bettis, who went in the 10th, the 10th player picked in the NFL draft. It is like up there with that level of production with these two guys. So they're awesome. They're awesome. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And the improvement in price from 2 years ago, obviously coming off the Achilles, to now it's so noticeable on film, just the way he moves. He's special. He really is. Both of them are, obviously.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I looked at a way to go lower because I figured that's where you guys were going to go. Then Tim, it entered my head. I thought, what about Miami? Could you argue one of those guys had to change the game by breaking one or whatever? Yeah. But then I thought, like you didn't even really give them a chance to get into the game enough to be able to do that. So I even tried to see if I could ding them for that, but I don't really put that on those guys, so I can't.
No, I mean, I've talked about this, on our shows is, I know, Denbrock called all the screens and, looking back, why'd you give a freshman the option to throw or pass on some of those? And he did throw some of those. Had he handed off, Love is good. I mean, there's a couple times where Love's gone for 60 in that game, had he handed off. And that's the kicker, is like, just call a handoff. Don't give that guy, dual reads out there. So, and that's, it's hard to grade, or fault those running backs in that, because I kid you not, there's one play, had Love bounce it, he's gone. Another play, Carr hands off, he's gone. So that game changes with just a couple of handoffs.
Fair enough. And the next thing that enters all of our minds is, whatever happens with that playoff, you would really love to squeeze in there while you got both of those guys and see what happens. Like, there's a lot on the line here with what you're going to lose. If you end up 13th, you lose your opportunity to see those guys and what they could do in the playoffs. So that's something to monitor. Let's move on to tight end. Mike, you'll go first on this one.
I went B+. And you're really talking about one player, I mean, you could talk about Washington, who's been a blocker. What Raridan did, like, early on in the season, and in particular in Miami, he played every snap damn near, Tim, in that heat, right, in that humidity. Maybe B+, because he's had some hands issues in those games, some dropsies, but then I'm taking fatigue into account. But just for the athlete that he is, the potential that he showed, some of the catches that he's made, and really just the usage. I mean, what they ask him to do, go run a 35-yard route, come back and bang with a defensive end. It's a huge ask. So I'm kind of torn between B+, but I'm going to go with a B+. And quite frankly, it's due to, could be higher. I'd like it to be higher, but it's just the lack of depth. I mean, it comes down to one dude.
Yeah, no, I get the depth. I guess I've been more impressed with Washington than you. Washington's not bad. Obviously,
no.
That's true. Yeah. No, exactly. But I gave him an A- because, number one, Raridan is playing at an All-American level. Raridan, like you're saying, is playing 99% of the snaps. He's been unbelievable when he catches it. His blocking has been point. And on top of that, Mike Denbrock's offense, he's not a big motion guy, but they move the heck out of the tight ends. I mean, Eli Raridan's everywhere. So he's moving, going from hip to outside to this to that, boundary to the wide side, kicking back into the hip position, into the boundary as a wing. So I think he's done outstanding. And I go back to who's the big, there's a couple of these NFL gurus. Oh, it's the athletics guy, the Dane Brugler or somebody. I think it's him. He came out with this list of like the top 25 NFL draft tight ends going into the season, and Eli wasn't on it. And it was like, are you serious? Did you just not think this kid's playing? So that's always stuck in my mind with the way Eli has played. So, he's been outstanding. I went with A- just because I really I think Washington's, played some really good football for them. So Eli's been an All-American. He's going to be an NFL draft choice, and Washington will come back next year, I think, is a nice little plug. Flanagan's now back, so he's going to be playing the rest of the season. Outside of those three is, Larson and I guess Jeffrey now, right, is your little wing slash tight end wide receiver. He's Salerno this year, but I went with A- just because of Eli, and I've been really impressed with Washington watching him block.
Aren't we looking at double Flanagan tight ends next year, but spelled differently? Pretty sure you're going to have two of them spelled differently, but double Flanagan at tight end. That's wild.
I'll take
No,
it.
absolutely. Yeah. Cooper and James. Yeah. And Eli's going to test exceptionally well for the NFL too. Exceptionally well for his size. So
have him dunk. Just have him dunk at the NFL Combine. It's like going back to his high school highlights was like, the guy looked like an NBA, dunk contest guy. He was unbelievable. So I just
know because Eli's father was a teammate of mine back in the day, but he was telling me about Eli's 10-yard split in some of their testing in the 40, and it's like unheard of. So I love all that NFL Combine, pro day type stuff. So I'm hoping to see some of that potential show itself for the NFL guys. But I like your grade, Tim. The only other knock on Washington, and I hate to keep mentioning size, he's smaller than I wish that he would be, right? He almost looks like a big tailback or something in there. He doesn't look like he's not even quite 6'3", 6'4". So
I was just thinking real quick, just to go off the NFL stuff is I think Raritan could easily be one of those hidden gems, in the third round type guys. Even with his testing numbers, because his first couple of years he didn't play a lot, because he was injured. Now he's been playing a ton these last 2 years, so he's still got a lot of tread left on the leg, so to speak, right? So I would love to see him be a third round pick, and just that size and that catch radius he has, man. I'm really looking forward to seeing him in the NFL.
Only other critique, and Jared and I've looked at this quite a bit on the film on Patreon. Sometimes, Tim, I think Eli's got 2 catches where he gets pushed out at the 1. I'd like to see a little bit more of a finish, like a little bit more yak for an athlete like that, just to, stiff arm somebody, maybe not go down quite as easily. Just if you're looking for a small, minor improvement in somebody's game, that'd be it for me.
He's probably exhausted going back to the point, right? He's played 90. It's like, man, God, coach, can I get a drink of water, please? It's like, can I motion less on this drive?
Mike, you've been saying that forever. You're like, look in the mirror, bro. Run that corner over. Just go through them and over them. Don't worry about it. Like, look at who you are. Run that guy over that looks like John. Just run him over.
Don't crumple. Just go over them, go through them. Yeah, I mean, again, you're 6'7", 250 something pounds. Put it to use in that. And just finish. But moving on, John. We're doing great on time, by the way.
We're moving. We're doing good here. Okay. Let's see if we mix it up on this one. It is Notre Dame's wide receiving unit. Tim, it goes to you first on this one.
Man, this is going to be my highest grade in the history of wide receiver with Tim Hyde, but am I too nice? I went B. So you got a young quarterback. They're making some plays for him. My biggest knock has just been, some of the slants that Fields hasn't caught, you just want more of those. I think Mike brought this up last week. Some of the cars CJ has missed on, it's really not the receiver's fault because it's been out of bounds on some of those, 50-50 go balls, so to speak. He's missed some, but Pauling Faison is, what can you say about that guy? He's unbelievable. So, Fields is definitely, the boundary catch guy. When you need something, he's there. It's been very productive, in the moment, all these guys. Depth is, but depth might not be a concern because KK Smith comes in, makes plays in one game. Obviously, Gilbert with the injured hands probably going to be out a little bit longer. So does someone fill that void? Greathouse, who knows what he's going to do? But at least the main three right now, very happy with those guys. I would definitely say a B. I mean, it's going back to Carr's, which we'll get to in a few seconds with CJ, but his numbers and the way he's playing is because of those guys as well.
Absolutely. And I think, Tim, do you recall what your preseason grade was for the wide receiver room?
I've always been a C+. I'm a C+ until you prove me otherwise. So definitely these guys have been impressive to watch.
So that's a tick up from Hyde. I think I gave him an A-, if memory serves me correct, preseason. And I'm sitting there at an A-, sitting here today. That's my – and you'd like to go higher, but again, I'm looking at the performance of the season. I'm looking at the current depth chart, and that there's only 3 of them.
That's it.
I mean, we play 3 wide receivers for all intents and purposes.
Yep.
Greathouse has been MIA. Your 4th, which was Gilbert, right? He's kind of on the bench healing up from a broken hand or something. And KK, I don't know if I quite trust KK. You love the speed, but he's yet to kind of really put it all together. But you love the group. You wish there was again, back to the size thing. You wish there was a little – dude, you don't realize how tiny Pauling is until you see him. And he's working his ass off when they use him as a fullback, but he's a tiny little guy. But I'm at an A-. I think they're a great group. I think between Faison's my favorite receiver. I think he may be our best receiver, just all around player.
Yeah.
The effort that the 2 of those smaller guys play with is exceptional. Really jumps out at you on film. And, Jared, when Pauling started to kind of work in, 2-3 games into the season, Jared's like, man, who's that kid? Because you could just see the tempo and the effort at which he plays with. But they've been a good group. Best group we've had in a number of years.
Now,
Yes.
I wanted to ask about that, Mike, that last part you just brought up, because I want to get in your guys' minds when you did this analysis. Was any of this graded with the wide receivers on any sort of curve, with kind of the bar being pretty low lately in recent years for Notre Dame wide receivers? And that maybe gives you a little artificial bump? Or were you guys able to just focus on this year and looking at this group and where it is compared to what you see around the country? Was there any curve in there subconsciously or on purpose? Just asking.
For me, I just went with production, I guess. Just watching them, seeing how they're doing in the game, the flow, and obviously it's hard. I mean, for me, I couldn't give these guys upwards of an A just because it's still your best players are still the running backs. So that's, to me, those guys are still involved, especially with Jeremiah. But no, I mean, I think they're a solid B. I mean, that's just my take. I mean, looking at Faison, I'm looking at the stats real quick. Faison already has 35 catches this year, which is a lot. And you go, heck, the leading receiver with Hartman was what? The leading was Rico Flores, I think, had like 29 catches, like as the top wide receiver that year. Something ridiculous. And then you go real quick, Fields, 18 yards a catch, and Pauling, 17 yards a catch. So those two, without those 2 guys, holy moly, where would this unit be? Because the guys that have recruited really haven't done much. So
the final note I add on that was exactly the comment put up on the screen. You want to talk about like portal misses? Is it worth it to spend the money getting guys in the portal? Look at the difference Field and Pauling have just made to the way we perceive that entire room and the depth in it or lack thereof or whatever. Those are 2 hits in the portal. Really good job. You wanted to support the young quarterback. Really, really good job finding those guys. Notre Dame fits, and they're both a big part of this. Really, really good job on that part.
I wanted to touch on your question in terms of grading on a curve.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's grading on a curve, dealing with like past scar tissue in terms of what the media will tell you. That's like the big thing, is you have to decipher, oh my God, am I going to believe the preseason, offseason hype about this wide receiver room for the third or fourth year running? But to me, it was like, a little bit of film study was like, these guys are better. And that's why I was just, again, film study, Pauling at Wisconsin, Fields at Virginia, looking at the numbers and just really watching film where it's like, say I bought the hype again this offseason, whereas I bought it this year, whereas I didn't buy it the prior 2 years, and nor did Tim for that matter. But it was really just film study versus anything else, and really trying to decipher between, God, what offseason narrative am I going to believe? And this is one where I felt comfortable kind of jumping in. The water was warm.
And to jump off of that, when you're talking about the narratives, it's like when you hear like, Micah Gilbert's the breakout star during spring, yet you watch all the videos, the highlights that come out, or you read any of the reports, and it's like, all right, he's going against the third string DBs. What does that mean? So, you start to hear some of these things that are always out there on this guy, that guy. He's going against the walk-on and he catches an 18-yard out. Okay, great. So, to Jay Carr, exactly. Tobias, wide receiver number 1, one of the biggest busts in Notre Dame history. So, and someone else put up about portal. Portal, to me, my philosophy is you get 2 a year, because you can't trust high school wide receivers. And we're already going to probably see that with some of these guys not panning out from the last couple classes already, might be moving on. Who knows? In the group with Gilbert's injured. Heck, if Gilbert had to be played this year, but he missed training camp with the hand injury. Now he's got another hand injury. So, who is coming up behind them? But that's what's scary. So get 2 a year. When I say 2 a year, it's going back to Mike's point. Because I never even heard of Will Pauling. You go on there and you watch his film from Wisconsin, you're like, this guy's a playmaker. And Wisconsin he was super, super good at Wisconsin 2 years ago. So keep hitting that portal, man. Find those older guys with the experience that come out there and play, especially next year with CJ, has a whole year under his belt. They're going to need some proven wide receiver play next year.
Yeah, and it's you've said this for a long time, Tim, in terms of just the wide receiver position, albeit the high school level or in the portal, there's thousands of them.
Oh, they're everywhere.
There's so many to pick from. So pick your metric. But no, it's been a great group. Fields at times really felt like a security blanket for Carr, especially early on in the season. But he's the only one out of those 3 that is a 50-50 ball, whereas the other 2, you got to kind of scheme them open. And but to offset that, both Pauling and Faizan in particular they're awesome with the ball in their hands.
Yes. And real quick, I know he's only played a few snaps, but seriously, KK Smith, even going back to last year, the handful of times he gets on the field, you always see what they talk about with him, right? Because obviously he definitely has speed. So hopefully one of these days he's a consistent guy out there that you just get the ball to, because you definitely see some playmaking ability with him out there.
And I love the consistency comment, because I just don't trust KK's hands quite yet to be like a consistent playmaker for you. But John, what's next? I know, we all know, we got to talk quarterback.
CJ Carr, baby. Mike, you're up first.
Oh, really?
You want me to go first?
No, I was thinking we could maybe go at the same time. Count it down, but I'll go first. So I reached out to Brady Quinn, because I know how high Brady is on CJ, and I was like, "What's your letter grade thus far into the season?" So Brady might be upset at me, but I'm going B. I'm going B, and we'll get into it. Tim, what's your grade?
A-. This was very easy to me, just because. I mean, let's just take the whole thing, right? He's injured last year, 4 string. He's, not even part of anything, so to speak. It's just Riley and Jelly. So CJ Carr's out there. Obviously, we've done nothing but hear about him forever. Then we hear about this competition, and then he comes out here and he's the 11th ranked quarterback in passing efficiency in the country. He's on track to break Jimmy Clausen's 2009 record for passing efficiency. Look at this. He's number 5 in the country in yards per completion. That goes to the wide receivers making plays. He's 6th in yards per attempt. So, Notre Dame they're a passing offensive team more than a running team, so to speak, this year at times. They, you know what I mean? Like they could throw the darn football. So has he made some boneheaded mistakes? Yeah. I think everyone watching and every Notre Dame fan expected those things. So I think an A-, just the way he's performed. He played. Heck, he took them down and tied up Miami. That's a redshirt freshman who's never played a snap. Takes him right down the field. The last time they had the ball, not counting the last 10 seconds, but the last time they got the ball, goes right down and scores, ties it up. Gets the ball against A&M, goes right down and takes the lead. So in those big games, had the ball in his hands and went down and scored. So to me, I think as a redshirt freshman, he's been on all these mid-season freshman All-American teams. He's for me, he's definitely an A-.
You got to look at the whole thing, look at the whole picture. You had mentioned the Miami game, and okay, it was a travesty that we didn't have more carries for your best players and your tailbacks. That was on CJ. I got it on very good faith, Tim. There was 5 called screens in that game. So it's like where a lot of those were just horizontal lateral passes. Now, should Denbrock have thrown that
Yes.
option element out of it and just called a straight handoff?
Yes.
But that's not what that's not the play call either, right? So you got to run the offense. So and then we're coming off the USC game, which wasn't a great game from CJ. Coaches are starting to get more film on the kid.
Sure.
And I could talk about the short yardage here, John, too, and how problematic that's been for the offense. And if you had a more comfortable runner of the football at the quarterback position, because there is more to playing quarterback than just passing yards. And it kind of feels like pigeonholed, maybe too strong of a word, but it's like CJ's got to throw the ball. That's going to be the offense. There is no, real scramble element to the game. There is no real RPO element to the game where defensive ends worried about, CJ pulling it. So there's a numbers game in the running, as far as the running game goes. And my whole thing is, we talked about this, I think last week, John, you and I on Monday Night Raw, was, how do I say that? If CJ's strengths are the accuracy and the intelligence, right? You see him checking in and checking out of plays. It's impressed the hell out of me, but you can't have inaccurate throws and bad decisions if those are your 2 strengths, like these strengths, those 2 elements of his game at the position.
But he's a quarterback that's only started a couple of games, so those are going to happen. To me, those are definitely going to happen. You got a guy who's never been in those situations. And real quick, you're talking about the zone read, short yardage, and then we talk about the USC game. When was the last time a Notre Dame offense went on the field and the defense had to respect the pass? That USC defense respected the pass. That opened up 300 yards of rushing. We haven't seen that in forever. With
Right.
Riley Leonard, obviously, the short yardage was there because he's a quarterback power guy. But no one respected the pass. Same thing with Sam Hartman the year before because the wide receivers stunk. So there was no running with him. And real quick on the the RPOs, I'll talk about it till I'm blue in the face. The Miami game, maybe 5 were only called, but there was a heck of a lot more, and those things should, we could say what it was when the true RPO for me is the read and the slant. That's what I want to see more of, and I think CJ's good at that. Fields has been horrible on the other end of those things, trying to catch the ball. They hit him right in the hands a couple times, but he's a young quarterback who's playing darn good football. He's had a few mistakes. I just think you just got to keep living with some of those, let him get it out of his system. And there has been a couple. The USC interception is just absolutely atrocious, and it's nice to see Denbrock, obviously a young quarterback, not go over there and baby him. In the film, you see the back of Denbrock, he's just just chewing his tail off, and that's good. So he needs to see that at times. But he's been excited. There's no quarterback controversy. He's the quarterback until he goes pro. So that is nice at Notre Dame to moving forward have zero controversy until he leaves, because that's gone with.
The frustrating part for me when I think about Carr, the good stuff, the rookie mistakes, all of it. If he played exactly how he's played and you got even half defense, you're undefeated. That is also a way I'm looking at Carr, is I'm looking at all of it. And I'm like, damn, even with some of those errors, if you just played half defense weeks 1 and 2, Notre Dame is undefeated. So
yeah,
it's a little frustrating, but I think Notre Dame's in a good spot. And with him, and maybe it'll help wide receiver recruiting in the high school ranks too. You're going to be able to attract some portal guys. Maybe teams see that they got a guy that could throw, and the high school recruiting picks up off of that Carr momentum. All right, you guys, you ready to flip it over to the defense? Let's go. Yeah.
I'm still talking about running the offense versus it. If we're just going to play like there's no play action, there's no RPO game, there's no threat of a quarterback run, CJ's got to be elite in terms of the passing game. That's all I'm saying. And then in the big games, like I know he took us down the field. He had the poise against Miami. He had the poise against A&M, but we lost, right? And then your next big game, USC, was his worst big game. So I don't want to be, sound like I'm being overly critical, but I just it's a hugely important position. I think we all have to keep that quarterback accountable is all I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
But I'll say the quarterbacks that are up for the Heisman, they're not runners. It's getting Mendoza's a drop back, chuck it. Simpson's a drop back, chuck it guy at Bama and Indiana. So I don't think you always need that runner. Marcel Reed, a runner. We saw that with the defensive scheme when we did the film where they slow played their D-line against Reed because they were so damn worried about him. And obviously he runs for 100+ against LSU last night. I think CJ is just, I'm sure Brady Quinn will talk about this, is just an old school drop back quarterback, slinging around. And that's okay, because that is the offense that they're running. They don't need him to run. But when they have run, he had yards against Miami. Obviously, he had the touchdown against SCU. So in little spurts, you can do that.
Moving along, defensive line. Tim, you're up first.
This has been the biggest surprise for me. Is I went A-.
Ooh, Tim.
I seriously did. I've been watching. That's my thing. Has been watching the D this year, and I'll tell you what. Stinks Rubio's out, because Rubio, like I said, was playing at an All-American level. Absolute stud this year. Some of the Notre Dame media thought he was bad, wasn't doing anything. No, he's been a dude since day one this season. Absolute stud, NFL type level draft pick. He was having, not the pass rush as Riley Mills, but everything else. He was playing like a Riley Mills. Absolute monster. The little rotation in, and I went with A-. Number one, the rushing defense. We talk about, they don't have those 325 pounders up there just sitting pretty and squatting in the A gap. They got some light tails out there. They are 19th in the country in yards per rushing defense. They're only giving up 3.2 yards a carry. That is like outstanding defense with Elijah Hughes, who's basically been a bit player his entire life. That guy plays with his, tail on fire. Heinisch the same way. Obviously Dawson, Mike knows every time he and I get together and we watch the film, Dawson is like a pit bull in his gap. You can tell he gets exhausted at times because he takes 2 plays off because he's so tired. But when Dawson's going, man, he's awesome to watch. So, and Anye's obviously coming off his best game, in the history of Jason Anye against USC. So D-line, and then we'll go to the edges. Traore's getting the sacks, moving things around. Mike knows cannot stand the way he was coached in the A&M game. They took away his pass rush and his skills in the A&M game, just the way they schemed that game. But Junior Tuihalamaka and Jordan Botelho are two of the most fundamentally sound, meanest dudes on the field and are a ton to watch. And then my hidden gem, who I'm sticking to this, is Bryce Young is going to be a first-round pick at D tackle someday. He just keeps getting bigger, faster, stronger, and I just love the way he's playing this year. Inside, I love the way he's playing.
And more specifically, Tim, you love him inside on third and obvious.
Yes, he wrecks havoc in there. He wrecks havoc. So to me, this is the most improved unit on the field this season. Pass rush, obviously, we know they're not getting the greatest pass rush with 4, but they are causing havoc at times. But as a unit, man, they just play hard-nosed Notre Dame football, and they've been fun to watch.
Yeah. To Renee's question, I still think there's some work to do in terms of Al Washington just coaching up, pass rush. Botelho Jr. and Traore are the only ones you see that really throw like consistent moves. And I think rushing a passer, it's like I got to have a counter move up my sleeve, but I'm throwing this move on this down. There isn't really much in a perfect world. There's no half step in versus just sometimes kids will come off the ball. They get kind of caught. What am I doing? And they just lock up, right? Start kind of titty bumping. They used to call it, Tim. So this was a group that we disagreed on with our preseason rankings, and that I was an A-. Started taking to calling them the Cheesecake Factory just because you want a 270-pound nose, we got that. You want a 340-pound nose, we got that. It's a huge menu to pick from. My grade for the D-line group is a B+. So we're close. We're close.
No, it's interesting. I went B+ just because of the front 4 not generating a great pass rush at times. But then I just gave I gave double bonus points for just effort. And
that's right.
These dudes play hard. They really, really do.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, and Elijah Hughes, I was the only guy talking about him, and he's probably, Tim, exceeded my expectations. And I thought he was going to be more of a slasher in the way you see Dawson kind of play at times, but he's just been so damn stout. And yes, the effort really jumps off the screen, especially lately. They've gotten better and better. Traore's got his sea legs underneath him, John. Like, he's fully healthy. He's fully comfortable. He's fully confident. So I'm going to give him a B+ for that group. And that, just generally speaking, I'm proud of him. And you want to talk about Riley Mills and Howard Cross. Howard Cross was the better player, in my opinion, Tim, just looking at the entire body of work. Gabe Rubio versus Riley Mills. Gabe Rubio is a better player in the run game by a pretty wide margin. And I almost would dare say it's inarguable. Riley Mills is a better pass rusher. But, Tim, Riley Mills did a lot of his best work against crappy teams. Like, the middle of the season, he was killing people. But how well did he play in big games? That's kind of up for debate. Somebody can look in the stats and whatever. But he dominated lesser opponents as he ought to have. And I think that kind of elevated maybe fans' perception of him. But, yeah, Rubio, hurry up and get back healthy, because he's a great player. And is a kid that's been through a lot, and you're just proud of him,
Yeah, it's they're making it work. Like, some of it doesn't look ideal, or that you have like all the body types you want, or but they make it work. And I'm wondering if defensive line's one of those places where raw red line effort can really pay off on the football field. Like, maybe more than some other positions out there, where if you're just that hard ass and you really push it with that motor, I think that's a position group where that pays off over the course of down series, weeks, and ultimately seasons. Let's move along to the linebacker position. Mike, you have the honors on this because you are a former captain at that position. Have at it.
B plus. B plus. I think the units played a lot better. Drake Bowen's played a lot better the last 2 weeks in particular. Jalen Sneed's playing a lot better. And you look at the whole body of work and the athletes that they have in the room. I mean, you're down to 4 in terms of Osbury, Sneed, KBA, Drake, B plus. And hell, you could almost go A minus, Tim, because we got an interception. And I think it's been a couple years since I've seen an interception from a linebacker, right? And KBA snatched one, predicted that on Patreon the week prior, said we're going to see one this week. So B plus, it's been a good unit. Not much else to say. I mean, I think that obviously Captain Obvious, the D line play and the linebacker play goes hand in hand. But what say you, Tim?
Yeah, I went. This is our first tie here. I definitely went B plus as well. I like the way they're playing as a unit. It was hard to go a little higher just because some of the explosive runs at times, some early season run fits that you and I have highlighted together on Patreon. Like, man, the hole's right there. Go get it. Kingston's been an All-American the way he's played. Bowen's last 3 games are could easily be his best 3 games as a group since he's been at Notre Dame. Sneed is still Sneed. He is absolutely fast as could be. I mean, his closing speed on the USC film breakdown I did was just insane on some of these. He's like not even on the film, and a guy gets a 2-yard gain and he's gone. So Osbury's steady. Osbury he's starting, and he's playing the 4th best out of those top 4, if you ask me, just the way he's been playing with his production. So it's a solid unit. Kingston may get some low All-American type recognition just because of his numbers, his production. It's been solid with that. And then real quick on the total defense isn't the prettiest number 58, in yards per play, total defense, which is obviously not the greatest. It was 110 after the first 2 games. So they definitely have improved. And lastly, they have held every single team outside of A&M. Everyone else they have held well below their yards per play, their total offensive production, their scoring production. So the defense is vastly improved, and that's obviously, I feel obviously you got to have those guys in the middle, and those are the captains, and the linebackers are definitely been a big unit this last month of the season.
And I think too, I don't know if you could prove it out, but like early on in the season where we weren't filling, right?
Yeah.
There was an obvious gap, like go, pull the trigger, go.
Yeah.
I think there was too much of an emphasis, Tim, on like communication early, where it's like, okay, nobody quite knew what to do. Drake's trying to get people lined up, and it's like, oh shit, they snapped the ball, and then you're late to like the play. Whereas I think the rest of the defensive unit is caught up just in terms of their overall awareness, which frees up your linebackers to go run and hit. I think there's an element to that, but no, they've been playing really, really well. And I mean, you could almost lumped KBA into the defensive line grade. I'd love to see after the season ends, the number of snaps where he had his hand in the dirt, as it were, versus playing off the ball linebacker. So
yeah, and with him, it's not even the sacks; it's just the pressure, the movement. Even in USC, he just made Maeva have to step up a couple times with the way he's rushing. And the one linebacker we didn't even mention was Madden, who dropped an interception, so that could have been a second linebacker pick. Madden, without a doubt, could be a mainstay in this unit with the way he has played and filled and swarmed and attacked the line of scrimmage. So it's an outstanding group. So B plus may be low at the end of the season. This definitely is a unit that could move up here in this, these next 5 games.
Now let's make this interesting. Now we're getting into some parts of the Notre Dame defense here that have been up and down and up and down. By the way, we got over 2,000 people live watching right now between Twitter and YouTube. Thank you to everybody that's here. That is a good group on a Sunday. Thanks to everybody for being here and everybody that's over on Patreon, where we have the full team together on a large scale venue over there. Thank you guys. Let's move along to the Irish corners. Tim, you have the first shot here with the corners.
Well, you got one's an A+, so that's it. That's an easy one.
Yeah, how do you separate this all out and combine?
Yeah, exactly. There's five positions. Let's go with them all.
Yep.
It's almost like instead of a unit grade, you do the player grade. But even Christian Gray, real quick on Christian is, I mentioned this, and some people were like, "Whoa, Tim actually said that." I said, if Gray was just playing the boundary, his 2 games at the boundary were outstanding. Outstanding. Leonard Moore, Benjamin Morrison, elite All-American boundary corners. Christian Gray looked like that in his 2 games playing the boundary side. So the field side, obviously it's a different animal, just a different position. But the corners overall, Zachary's come in and had to play. Heck, against USC, Golden, half of his snaps are at corner, and that's a position he's never played at Notre Dame. He comes here and he's playing, this safety, that safety, he's rotating all over the place, learning all these things. So as a unit, man, obviously Leonard Moore is just, he is who he is, right? First,
you got to average all these individual grades out.
If he doesn't, yeah, exactly. I posted the way he covered Lemon against USC. If he doesn't win the Thorpe Award this year with the numbers that the analytics have this year on Leonard Moore, it's a travesty. It's ridiculous. It's like Quentin Nelson not winning the Outland in 2017. I still want to see the voting on that. I can't believe he didn't win that darn thing. I went B+ as a unit because, believe it or not, they've actually played really well outside of a couple plays. It's the nickel is where they've gotten hit, but that goes back to personnel, right? They played 4 different nickels this year. 4. Devontae Smith, obviously Hobbs, Golden, and Leonard Moore against USC. So 4 nickels this season. But the outside corners, having to play those young guys, Leonard Moore balances out B+. And if that's too high, I don't know. But I'm going with that one.
Back-to-back agreements, Tim. B+ for me as well. And it's funny. You have a way of making some really poignant statements, and it's like we've been just when you watch the tape in particular, Tim, that nickel position is crucial. It's God. Everything, and we've been spoiled between Thomas, Bracey, Clark, and it's like this year, same defense, give or take, in terms of the level of importance from the nickel. And you played 3, 4 guys there. So I'm B+, and I'm just going to tell you, to your point, in terms of him winning the Thorpe Award, Leonard Moore, that is. Leonard Moore is to the defense. It's like Jeremiah Love playing offense. Generational talent. Leonard Moore is close to perfect in terms of his technique. One thing I forget who mentioned it on the Patreon chat, but with that USC game, Leonard Moore and Dallas Golden had the exact same fit in terms of the socks, the sleeves, whatever. And they were somebody brought this up. They're like, do you think that they dressed the exact same? So whoever the coach, the assistant coach in the box couldn't decipher who was who, from the box. And I thought that was brilliant.
I was watching film with you, Mike, and I said something, and you're like, Tim, that's so. I was like, oh my God, they look like twins out there.
Yeah, very tinfoil hat-y. Christian Gray, it's play-by-play with him, and when he can figure it out, kind of what's going on between his ears, all the physical talent is there. And Tim, you've done a great job of highlighting that, and that he plays in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, so his bad snaps look worse. They're so stark. Yeah. But I'm very optimistic about the future with Mark Zachary. Absolutely. Just in terms of the way he's built. And it came down to just some boneheaded personnel decisions early in the season. And you might tick that up into A- category. And Devonta Smith, I still think Devonta Smith is our best nickel, but love to see him back whenever he's healthy.
No, I feel, and as bad as it was the early part of the season, they still held Marcel Reed, who's probably going to be going to New York City, under 50% completion. The Notre Dame pass defense this year as a unit, they're 16th in the country in completion percentage against them. Number one last year, number one, I believe the last 2 years. So I thought that was awesome. Quarterback rating, they're in the 40s where they were in the 100s after their first 3 games. Drastic improvement. And then they're third in the country in interceptions. And this is a unit that couldn't catch a darn pass. John Kennedy's mentioned this on his show. It's like, just pick one pass in the first 2 games, and you're this number 2 ranked team in the country. How many? I mean, I'm going to say it. I'm sorry for saying it, but I just keep always like, Adon Schuler, how do you not pick that ball? That's going to be like, I wake up at 2:45 some mornings like, oh my God, Schuler, what are you doing? Pick that thing. And then, for as good as Reed is, he chucked that thing up in that game. Notre Dame just didn't pick
Glad
the
I'm not
ball.
the only one, Tim. You know how good that makes me feel that I'm not the only one that tosses and turns. And I still see DJ Brown with the ball in his hands against
I knew that
Ohio
was going to
State.
come up. Yeah.
I wake up in a flop sweat at 3 a.m. I'm like looking around.
But somebody posted in the chat, and it's a great point about, does coaching go into the equation? Sure, because it has been a drastically improved unit. It is, hey, if you're on Patreon, it is so noticeable on film, just the energy they're playing with, the confidence they're playing with. Very, very noticeable when you're watching that film, and you see it. The personnel is different. That's the other thing. They have there's guys playing in the first couple of games you don't see basically now. So they've made personnel changes, and as a coach, you could sit there and kick yourself, but at the same time, you're like, we had to see these guys in action. It just so happens to be we had to see it against the ACC and the SEC champs, possibly. So, and we still lost by 1 point, in 2 games. So, that stinks. But overall, man, they still have some amazing numbers that are out there. And we haven't even talked about the safeties yet. So,
I think to put a bow on that, I think zone coverage still needs some work.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you want to lock up and play man, we're pretty confident in that regard.
Yes.
Mike, safety play to you first, sir.
B.
I went B plus. You went B. I'll dive in. I'll give a quick note on this before you go. I just went B plus because of the amount of improvement since Adon Schuler came back from that, from his little, suspension for that late hit, which is still wild. The defense is just taken off with him out there. Seeing him out there, he didn't play like I hate to say that, but the captain, the All-American type hype he was receiving those first few games. And that could easily be, Schuler mentioned it. Everyone's mentioned it on that defense. They're like, where's X Watts? Where's Kaiser yelling out stuff? And it's, you could, as Mike Goolsby knows, you could go through all the spring and the training camps doing it in front of 75,000 screaming where you got to check, and you only got 12 seconds to check. It took them a little bit, and that was noticeable. But, man, ever since Schuler's come back, and the emergence of Tay Johnson, this is going to be the kicker, because they went with Talich and Stroman as their main back safeties. Johnson played a little bit, but that's because he's new. They probably didn't trust him yet. They have all the trust in the world because Johnson and Schuler don't come off the field anymore. Those are the dudes, and they're outstanding. And this is a unit with those two guys could easily jump up. And then when they go to dime, you got Talich, who's the end of the fourth quarter interception specialist. So with his 3 this year, and he's been playing dime. Stroman's been a solid run fitter when he's been in there. So, it's a good little group of safeties there.
Yeah, and this is just, again, back to the initial concept, the entire body of work, and that I thought Tim did a great job of highlighting this on the schematic breakdown in how poor Stroman was early on in the season, just playing middle free safety, just bad eyes, bad feet, bad instincts. It was bad. I mean, and then plugging into Tay Johnson, it's kind of night and day in terms of your center fielder. And Tay's got a lot of – go ahead, Tim.
An athlete, right, Mike? Just as an athlete, just watching him out there is like, bam, that's an NFL football player. Just watching Tay Johnson is unbelievable with his skills.
And there's still a lot of room for growth too.
Oh,
I mean,
gosh.
he's such a young player. I like Talek a lot, and I want to go a little bit higher, but when you're looking for and again, watching the tape, you see trends in terms of, okay, if I was a coach, what would I address or what would I try to work on? Don Schuler in and around the box, he's a killer, right? He's a killer, and he's good in coverage, but not man coverage. I've seen enough of it over a long enough period of time where it's like there's a little bit of a ding against a Don Schuler, as good as he's been for us. But then maybe you just kind of carve out defined roles and we try to throw that out or put Talek in coverage versus that tight end, whatever is the case. But I think Tay Johnson, just plugging him in, gave that whole room an injection of just overall athleticism, tempo, a little bit of juice, Tim, the way Tay plays the game, confidence. So we're close on that one as well, as far as grades.
Yeah. And John, I mean, just some of these guys we've talked about, the sophomore class is just, there's some athletes out there playing. KVA, Leonard Moore, Tay Johnson, Bryce Young. Those guys alone, just those 4 on the D are outstanding.
And this is big picture, John. I said this many, many times. Could you win it all this year? Absolutely. But to your point, Tim, you're talking about that sophomore class of athletes, and you start to roll in more and more behind them. Like this 2026 recruiting class, top to bottom, is pretty stacked. You get a Jadon Blair who's kind of waiting in the wings. Like the athletes, I mean, we're getting closer and closer and closer, but the more of these kids we get into the building, the better. It's like a Tay Johnson kind of proves that point. Throw experience out. Sometimes you just need raw athleticism. Thank you for the super chat. That would have bought you 1 month of Patreon. But thanks.
Tom, Chris, thank you guys. I got one more for you, and then we're gonna finish it on one question for each of you to answer that isn't a grade but relevant to this project. And then we'll let people watch Sunday Night Football.
Kicker, D-. Go ahead.
Tim's going first. Special teams.
It's talked about this last Monday night. We've got a scholarship kicker, our young kicker that can't make field goals apparently. So that situation is frustrating as a whole. But Biaggi's done a couple fun things, but just when you're talking about making a playoff run, Tim, and you've been in that position as a coach, and you're struggling in the short yardage game as well, so it makes that decision-making process very frustrating for the coaching staff. So we got to figure it out, man. But yeah, I mean, the kicking game, I'm saying it tongue-in-cheek, D-, but
no, I hear you.
There's a lot of room to improve. It gets a passing grade, but there's a lot of room to improve.
Interesting. I'm looking at the main analytics page because I saw this earlier, and it, because you're always looking at offense and defense. Offense, Notre Dame 7th in the country in the S&P Plus analytics, the one ESPN puts out. 18th in defense, 52 in special teams. 52. That's interesting. So I just saw that number. I was like, whoa, because obviously we see the big plays and they must round a bunch of stuff in, a couple PATs here and there, a dropped PAT that killed them against A&M. So yeah, the kicking thing is just maddening. I feel like some of those Holtz teams where you're just like, they got NFL guys everywhere, and you're like, who the heck's the kicker? It's like, can we get a guy who can just kick? So, they lost some games with that. But
and the other thing, you guys, that like the field goal kicking and the extra point, like that drives you nuts. But the kicking kickoffs out of bounds is like, that's a whole nother thing, especially against an offense like USC. And you're just handing it to them at the 35 for no reason at all. Like those 10 yards are such a big deal against a high-powered offense. So, like, that was driving me crazy too. So, if you want to be a playoff team, do you guys remember how important field goal kicking was when we got into that damn playoff?
Oh, huge.
Woo! I mean, you better figure something out here. You got 5 weeks. Hopefully these games don't require a field goal to win, but you got to find some trust here if you think your season's going deep.
Oh, man. Well, they don't beat Georgia. You get the field goal. I mean, that game, people forget the Georgia game was only 3-3.
Yeah.
Jeter kicks the field goal. Georgia gets the ball back, and they're like, oh, we're going to go down with Stockton. You get the strip sack touchdown. Then you get another big field goal at the end. Obviously, the field goal against Penn State to win the darn thing. So is that even there for this season's team? I don't think so. Right now, at least it's not.
Yeah.
So
it's
like I said, you've got a transfer kid in Burnett who's hurt or not hurt.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like, did he warm up for USC because of the weather? I don't know, but you're talking chip shots and it's like, we're missing them bad. And then you've got Schmidt, who's your freshman scholarship kicker, that we have a kicker on scholarship that can't kick field goals. So that's like I said last Monday night, it's like, we've got this super talented freshman wide receiver on scholarship, but he can't catch a pass. Like, what the hell? So it just at times it makes us feel like we're not a serious program in that regard.
Can I ask you this? As a defensive player, as a linebacker who got beat up every day out there, you had torn this, torn that, fight back from this, recover from that. As a guy with your head in there getting dinged all game, does it extra bother you when you look at the kicker? You're like, bro, we're getting thrown around out here, getting beat up. Can you just do your one job? You don't even get hit. Like, is there an extra level of like, what the F? Get it together when you're in there getting hit all the time?
Okay, it's money time, right? In the game, they shank a kick.
Yeah.
I think you have a degree of empathy, but yes, the practice is what kills you, Tim, because you're doing inside run, 9-on-7, goal line, you're doing this, whatever. And the kickers are literally over there playing hacky sack or doing whatever the hell they do for 2 hours while you're out there grinding, sweating. That frustrates you to look over and be like, what the hell are these kids? Like, I don't know what to do. Should they be on a bike doing calisthenics? I have no idea. But they're over there just kind of J.O. in all practice. So it does get frustrating. So it's got to be resolved. It's a huge wart. And then, like I said, when you couple it with the short yardage issues and the decision-making process coming out of that, it's really frustrating. Really frustrating.
Yeah, it is. Hopefully they get it figured out. Okay. As we wrap up here. Okay. Breaking news. Pete Thamel. Sources. LSU coach Brian Kelly was informed of the intention to dismiss him earlier today. School is expected to inform the team of this development tonight. Talks about the terms of the departure are expected to continue. Boy, that escalated quickly, guys.
It's I'll take a few seconds on this because I was home doing some work today and listening to some of the national news today where, the early reports were, Kelly was going to, get rid of some of the assistants. You're trying to do like a 2016, right, at Notre Dame and just try and change some of the assistants. Yeah. And then some of these LSU guys were like, the boosters all got together. I mean, this is what I'm hearing from some of the LSU stuff, the podcast I was listening to, just having fun catching up on the national news. And the boosters were like, well, why are we firing assistants if we're still going to lose games this year? And that means we got to keep you around for next year.
If he's the root of the problem, what does the assistants do? Yeah.
Well, exactly. And that's what now they were saying at first. They're like, well, Kelly's like, hey, I'm going to get rid of some guys. We're going to clean house. We're during a bye week. But they're like, okay, but that means you have all these new assistants. What the heck are you going to do against Alabama? And you still got Oklahoma. You're looking at a couple more losses, buddy. Are these guys, if you're going to clean house, that means you're going to have a whole new staff next year, and it's year 5. So, and just real quick, man, LSU is obviously a preseason top 10. By the way, Lee Corso's pick for the national title is probably why he got sent out the pasture was Penn State versus LSU. So we'll throw that away. But let's just be honest. He didn't coach good football during his 4 years. He had that Western Division or whatever, but they're still the Western back then, right? He won that division title year one, and he hasn't done anything this year. And, and last year, he complained a ton about NIL last year. And the boosters gave him everything he's wanted since he's been at LSU. They just didn't win. I mean, let's be honest, man. They didn't win games. And real quick before I let you guys jump into this, as I'm rattling on, it's year 4, right? I think that's what some of these boosters are saying. They're like, man, we keep giving you all this money, everything you need for NIL, and it's year 4, and we're going to our 4 straight, Outback Bowl, whatever the heck bowl they're going to. They're like, what are we going to do in year 5 when it's a new quarterback, a new OC, a new this, a new that, and a new that? So that's what it sounds like coming from the LSU guys when I was paying attention today.
John was watching the game last night, and the way this man coaches and treats people, media, but players in particular. And that's why what you and I've got going, the fan dynamic, the player dynamic. I might be 68 years old and I'm still watching that game through the lens of a player. And this quarterback who's got his ass kicked, right? He's reeling physically. Like the kid's in pain. They've got true freshman left tackle going up against number 9 from A&M. They can't block him. This kid's frustrated. And just the way that Kelly deals with his players in game, as if Nussmeier's not under like enough stress, as it were, like he's asking him, he's just telling him what to do versus like taking information. There's no empathy from Brian Kelly whatsoever in terms of like player dynamics. And then I watched the post-game presser last night from Brian Kelly. The most unlikable person. I mean, it really hits you. Like, he's an asshole. And if you fast forward, because I sent you a note, I sent you a text, John, 7:41. If you just fast forward to that timestamp, Brian Kelly's ready to go. He was like, I don't know if they're going to keep me.
Yeah,
he's ready to go. Like, he's a con man. Horrible fit down there in the bayou, like comically bad fit. I think a lot of credit goes to you, John, because I think you've nailed this thing on the head from day one. But I'm really struck at you. You mentioned this last night. Like, it's not the NIL, it's not the facilities, it's not the talent, it's not the whatever. Like, you can't change the man. And I think you nailed that on that video you put out last night. But again, I'm just watching him MFing his players in the heat of the battle early on, killing players' confidence, and you just watching that quarterback walk away, right? It's too bad, man. It's too bad. But there's a lot of people out there that told you so. Tim, go ahead.
Just 2 things off of a couple of your comments is the head. I was watching this and I was texting with some really good Notre Dame friends of mine last night as I was actually watching. I had that game on and I was watching the SC Notre Dame game again. And I saw, you're reading his lips, like, you can't call that. Why are you kicking to that guy? What defense are you calling? There's a great tweet today showed Kelly, like, talking to his DC, like, what in the heck are you doing? And, hey, I've been a head coach for 10 years at a giant high school in Los Angeles, and I've been a D coordinator with some outstanding coaches. If the head coach wants something done, you do it. And that really hit last night when I'm listening to him, or you're on the damn headset, unless he's listening to a golf podcast. It's like, you're on the darn headset. If you hear the special team coach saying, hey, kick left, and you want it out of bounds, get on the headset and say, kick it out of bounds, coach. He doesn't do that. And he's yelling at the offensive coordinators. That one clip is perfect. You can't call that play. You're on the headset. Say, no, check, Roger Red, whatever, just throwing something stupid out. It's like, you're in control. It's and this is your program. This is why I put more emphasis on head coaches. Like, with Freeman or whatever, people love, to blame assistants or whatever. And it's like, no, it's still the head coach. And we're seeing that in a lot of these programs this year. It's still the head coach. And that was really a big telltale. It always has been when he's yelling at guys, but last night, in the heat of that moment, they were winning at halftime, don't forget. They were winning. That LSU crowd was rocking. That place was insane. They were winning. And then he starts blaming everyone else. It's like, dude, you're the head coach. Take ownership of that situation. He didn't. Lastly, my wife is a Notre Dame grad, and she was on the Notre Dame Club of Los Angeles for many years as one of the board members there. Brian Kelly came out to Los Angeles as the guest speaker one spring. Obviously I'm a Notre Dame fan. It's like, oh man, the Notre Dame head football coach. My wife's on the board. I get to meet with him. Nope. The guy was an absolute jerk to everybody. He came up to his little speech. Then he went to this little roped off area, and only a couple people were allowed to even go say hi to him. My wife and other Notre Dame alums were ticked. Obviously, me as a Notre Dame fan, I had some of my buddies there as well, and we weren't even allowed to shake his hand. I kid you not. And then my wife being on the board, oh my God, you guys, I have the bill somewhere. I will send you. You would be amazed at the bill the Notre Dame Club of Los Angeles paid to have him come out to speak, and all the little hoops that, because he had said no 2 years in a row. This is Los Angeles, Mike.
Oh, Tim, we're talking $100,000, right? Easy.
Dude, it's insane. The things, the jet, the hotel, the food orders, the drink orders, the this and that. It's ridiculous. And so that's always stuck to me, just being a part of that. But last night, you're the head football coach. You want something done, call it. Go ahead, John.
I have two little pieces on this, and then maybe I'll do another video on this topic later, because it's kind of a little pet project of mine. Number one is the mistake LSU made was assuming a change in location would change a guy. And there's enough body of work to know how Kelly operates, what he's good at, what he's not good at, all the personality stuff, the big game troubles. They thought him walking on this SEC campus, all of the bad stuff would wash away and SEC magic and LSU magic would take over. That was a mistake. And number two, this is a big deal to me. LSU has one of the most unique cultures in this sport in the whole country. There's something unique and special about the Bayou and the buy-in and the Bayou and how they live and how they love football. It's a culture. He never fit it ever. And that's a rough start. And then you don't win enough. And then you got that edge in the interview room combined with you don't have a connection with this fan base. It unravels quickly. So
listen, John,
yeah,
there's a lot of successful people in the world that are like sociopaths. When he grabbed that mic and he was talking about my family and he was trying to do the Southern accent, he said, and I haven't even won all of my games yet. That's like crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. He's a con man. I think he's ready to go. And yes, to your point, Tim, as the head guy, I mean, this stuff's like inarguable where it's like he wants to be right on the back end, right? So it's like you're not going to be correct in terms of what we should have called. You're going to be right on the back end. And in hindsight, he's always right in hindsight. Well, we should have done this. We shouldn't have done. I'm telling you, go listen to that post-game presser. And then juxtapose that with what you have in a Coach Freeman. It couldn't be. They're polar opposites in terms of how they're wired, how they treat people, how authentic they are.
There's two things. Let me jump in here real quick because as I'm thinking, there's a couple of weeks ago when I think Florida, they had a really tough game, good battle with Florida. And someone asked him about the rushing game, how the O-line's struggling. I'm sure you guys saw this. And he's drinking water and he starts yelling at the reporter. Did you see the last drive? Did you see the last run? We're running the ball. But it's like, but they were horrible all game, but they did it at the end. But it's like, that was wild. Then he called the fans spoiled. Wasn't that just recently, right? In the last couple of weeks, you're spoiled. It's like, no, we're paying you a lot of money, which is interesting. Cause I know when, me and Goolsby did a show when he left back then on the other show together. And I was like, because I told my wife, hey, Kelly left. And my wife, as an alum, was like, who cares? She was like, 12 years, Tim. It's like, I know he never won a title. I get it. And I was always okay with it because this is my opinion. He wasn't getting what Jack Swarbrick was going to give him, which was $10 million or 10 years. Swarbrick had already told him the talk was like, no, we're not talking any more extensions with you. You have yours. And I think, John may know this. I think he still had 4 years left on his contract, 3 or 4 years left at Notre Dame. So it's not like he needed an extension. He was just, it's 95 mil. And that's why I love when Jack Swarbrick said, yeah, he didn't even come to me and try to renegotiate, because Swarbrick had already told him after 2020, we're not talking extensions anymore. Because why is that? Because every time he goes against a superior team, Notre Dame loses by multiple touchdowns. So there's no need for that. But that, and just real quick, I remember the change after I was at the SC game. I know I've talked about the story 1,000 times. I was at the SC game in the little sprinkly rain in 2016, and me and all my Notre Dame buddies, we go back to the Notre Dame party tent, which was, by the way, Orange County and LA, had a group one together, hung out with those guys, and everybody thought he was going to get fired. There was boosters there on the Notre Dame big booster group. We're at that group, and there's like, oh yeah, Swarbrick's already talked about he's going to get rid of him Monday, but obviously he stayed. And I'll never forget after Georgia. You want to talk about going back watching a press conference, Goolsby? Go back and watch like the first or second question after Georgia in 2017, the 1 point lost. This female reporter was awesome. I don't know her name, but she said, what's really changed? You lost again to a good team. And he just chewed her butt. He had to apologize publicly at the press conference like Monday or Tuesday that week to that reporter. So just little things like that have always stuck out about him.
It all comes down to, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah.
How these guys treat people, whether it's players, whether it's reporters, whether it's fans, but in particular, the players, fellas. And dude, on the picks to click, right? So I give out picks every week. I'm at 57% this year so far. Was better last year. This is a rough week to pick games, but I actually picked LSU to win, and I'm like, there's no way he's going to do it again. There's no way, and he did it again. And I'm just talking about the way that he treats treated his quarterback during the course of early in the game, jumping his ass. The kid's getting heated up. He's in physical pain, and just to treat him like that. And then you watch the way our kids play in big games and the way that they play for Freeman, and it's a completely different approach. And that Freeman lets these kids go eat, lets them go have fun within the confines of the game. And versus a Brian Kelly, you're afraid to make a mistake because he's going to jump your ass. And it's almost like, John, he wants people reading his lips. It's like he doesn't have a call sheet, right? Because he's just a figurehead. But like, cover your mouth or do something where people can't read your lips. And it's like he knows he's front and center, back to like the narcissist sociopathic thing. Man, I'm glad we got Coach Freeman. John, you were right. I thought, again, go watch Johnny's video last night. I actually watched it twice last night. It was that good. So just be thankful that the program that we're fans of is in such stable ground, because look around the country, all of these blue blood name brand programs, they're on fire, and we just keep chugging.
No, it's heck, that's why that SC game was so big, right? Freeman with 3 losses in his 4th year, looking at a little minor bowl of 3 out of 4 years. Wouldn't it be a good look for Freeman?
Tim, those kids go play for that man.
Yeah.
Versus like Kelly, it's like
I get that, but had they lost, they're going to another minor bowl for the 3rd time in 4 years. That's why that SC game was so big. And you're right, they played his tail off, and obviously moving forward, they could be in back-to-back playoffs, which is unbelievable, right? That Notre Dame, a couple of years ago, Kelly leaves, you get a rookie head coach, and they're so close to going to back-to-back playoffs. And here's Kelly getting fired. He doesn't even finish 4 years with all the talent. See, and that's the other thing is, just go back to my coaching and being around recruiting my entire life. I'm telling you guys, LSU might be number 1 or number 2 when it comes to the easiest requirements to get into a college. It is I'm telling you, how do I know that? Because I got some guys that have been recruited. I'm like,
And
oh,
proximity to talent within
but
the 300-mile radius.
they could get anybody.
Yeah.
They could get anybody. You need the bare minimum of just breathing and knowing how to write your name, and they could get you in. So there's no requirements. Obviously, the facility's there. He had his chef, right? I mean, John, did you talk about that in your video? I haven't watched your video yet, but that was the big thing, right? The chef. We don't have a chef at Notre Dame. Well, he's got 12 chefs at LSU, and he's getting fired in 3.5 years. So
It's
all
tough.
the things he complained about, it's like you had all that. The recruiting advantages, it is giant. The reasons why he left are true. The recruiting advantages are massive. There's zero restrictions. You could get anyone at any time into there. The money flows because those people are consumed with winning. They'll do whatever you want.
You can't go in there and screw up the culture, or it starts tearing at the thread of all of that that's in your favor. When you start rocking the culture boat with the donors, with the fans, with the media, in the locker room, with your assistants, you're tearing at the thread of that.
Now it's and Goolsby, I know we want to go. We've been yapping so much. Goolsby made a great point about the players, and it's like he really does go out of his way to just chew dudes out on TV. Like, I mean, you could go on Twitter.
He's going like this. He's going like he's asking the kid the question, and we do got to get out of here. I haven't eten today. He's asking the kid the question, and he can't wait to talk. Brian Kelly. He can't, and he's going, no, you can't do. It's like, well, then why ask him the question? And the kid's not even off the field yet. And it's like, and then he's got to walk back. I mean, I've been there. I was that Tennessee game, Tim. An unknown player took a swing at one of our coaches just because it was like, you can't treat people like that in a big game. You just can't, because it kills people's confidence. It's just such a bad look. Pride comes before the fall. Let that be a lesson to all of us. Pride comes before the fall. And if you need an example of that, look at Brian Kelly's last stop. Let's get out of here, fellas. Good show.
Everybody, thank you for being here. Right now, you guys, we're at over 2,800 people on this live stream. So thank you, everybody, for joining. We broke a record tonight. There's a lot going on. We'll be back on Patreon tomorrow for Monday Night Raw. Link in description, and we got to get back focused about what Notre Dame has coming here. As fun as this distraction is, I got to reel it in and really get serious about Notre Dame's next 5 games. Love you guys. Thanks for being here. We'll see you guys on the morning show, Raw, and who knows, maybe Johnny will drop something else later tonight. Have a good one, everybody.
Seriously.